my mic is on. Yes, it is. Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Tabor Town Council meeting for April 12th, 2021. At this time, before we begin our meeting today, I would ask that everyone observe 1 minute of silence to mark the passing of His Royal Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, who we all know sadly passed away last week. The town of Tabor offers our deepest condolences to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and all members of the royal family. Please join me for 1 minute of silent contemplation. Thank you very much. And to carry on with our meeting today, first off, we have two public hearings to deal with before our regular council agenda. So I will call that meeting to order related to bylaw number 9-2021. For the public's information, any public in attendance who wish to speak against or for proposal bylaw number 9-2021 will have a 10-minute time limit for speaking and must state their full name for the record. Item number 2 related to the Northwest Area Structure Plan, Amendment Bylaw 9-2021. Mr. Orwa?
Yes, I would call upon Ms. Monks to address the public hearing with council, please.
Thank you. Ms. Monks. Good afternoon.
Administration is bringing forward a map amendment to the Northwest Area Structure Plan in order to proceed with the Manufactured Housing Initiative. While we've been unable to proceed with our typical public consultation for this project, throughout the past 3 years, we have provided updates to the public on the progress through various articles in the Tabor Times. A survey was set up on the Planning Public Consultation website, and ads were placed in the Tabor Times March 24th and 31st, advising the public of the link and calling for any concerns or input. Circulations were sent to properties adjacent to the site and to our regular internal and external stakeholders. Currently, the 60 acres, as well as the 24 acres east of 50th Street, are included in the Meadows of Tabor concept plan. The Northwest Area Structure Plan deals only with the lands on the west side of 50th and changes the use from institutional recreation to residential to allow for development of the manufactured housing. The proposed amendment is specifically a map amendment to Figure 3, which is the land use concept plan in the Area Structure Plan. As indicated, the intention would be to amend the town-owned lands west of 50th Street and north of 64th to permit the affordable housing development to occur. The proposed school site will now be on the east side of 50th, across from this development and south of Ken McDonald Sports Field and the Legion Campground. The lands on the east side of 50th are already identified in the Eureka Area Structure Plan as institutional recreation and will allow for the development as recreational and school site as identified in the concept plan. At the March 22nd regular meeting of council, first reading of bylaw 9-2021 providing for the map amendment was given. This virtual public hearing is potentially the last step in public consultation and to allow input to council for consideration. Following that, council could potentially give second and third reading to bylaw 9-2021.
All right, thank you, Ms. Monks. Has the Planning and Economic Development Office received any written briefs against the proposed bylaw number 9-2021?
Yes, Your Worship, we have. They were included in your package. Mr. Camps is leasing the property to the south and north and west of the lands, and has expressed some concerns in relation to the public consultation, as well as the potential for damage to crops. I believe he is on the line and would like to speak.
All right, Mr. Camps, are you with us on the line and wishing to speak against proposed bylaw number 9-2021?
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Michelle Camps. I'm the owner of CP Farms out in Barnwell, and we leased a property that is surrounding your land that you're going to do this affordable housing on. I want to state for the record that I'm not against the development of affordable housing. I'm in favor of the town undertaking such a development. What I am concerned of is, as you have written in my letter, is the irreparable damage that it will cause with the installation of some of the utilities that need to get done in order to facilitate the sewer and the water infrastructure for this development. Um, Ms. Monks has received maps that clearly show some of the damage that we have seen has been done by the installation of the sewer line, which was before my time. So therefore, I have no right to complain about that. There loss for a significant period of time after the installation of the sewer line, which concerns me. Of course, with some of the other concerns that I have, as specified in my letter, with the crossing of some of the irrigation equipment over your land, I have no right to assume it's going to continue on. It's your land, and you are, of course, at liberty to do with it whatever you want. We will have to make alterations to the irrigation equipment due time. I've been in contact with Mr. Bergen about a potential timeline when that might occur. It seems like we're going to be okay for this year's crop, but further out, it would be nice if, as Ms. Monks has correctly demonstrated, there has been communication landowners, and it's been in public in the paper to that word that this was going to happen. And I am not sure how I'm because I read the Tabor Times every week, but for some reason this went by me, and I did not know that this was going to happen until one of the local contractors informed me that they wanted to start digging there pretty soon, and when we were going to plant their crop. That's when I got a little bit concerned, and I got into it. And I want to thank Ms. Monks for sending me the documentation that was publicized in the paper, and I will take that for information. And my intent is to work with the town and, as a legal tenant of the land, either avoid or at least one way or the other be compensated for the damage that it will do to the land for the upcoming, decade, so to say. Another concern I have is figure 3 that you have in your package here. The schedule of the land that or the layout of the land that you have drawn out here would take up all the land that's within town limits. I'm not sure what the time schedule is on that, but we have an 8-year lease remaining on the land, and I'm not sure if that's all going to happen within that time, but uh, detailed communication will be highly appreciated. Let's put it that way.
All right, thank you, Mr. Camps, for your presentation and your input. All right, Ms. Monks, anyone else we're expecting that you're aware of? Yes, all right, okay. I will ask 2 more times then. Is anyone else present who wishes to speak against proposed bylaw number 9-2021? And for the 3rd time, anyone present who wishes to speak against proposed bylaw number 9-2021? All right, seeing none. Regarding the proposed 4 bylaw number 9-2021, Has the Plan and Economic Development Office received any written briefs for that bylaw?
Your worship, I believe Mr. Douglas Bergen is on the line and would like to speak in support.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bergen. Are you on the line with us? Mr. Bergen, are you on the line? Al, do we have him there that you're aware of? He's not on the line. All right, okay, thank you. All right, I will ask for a second time. Is anyone present who wish to speak for proposed bylaw number 9-2021? Anyone present who wishes to speak for proposed bylaw number 9-2021 for a third and final time? All right, thank you. Seeing none. Would ask for a motion related to the information for public hearing, please. Right. Councilor Bruin. Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And I do declare this public hearing now closed. Thank you. And on to the second hearing required. I will call that public hearing meeting to order. And again, members of the public in attendance who wish to speak against or for bylaw number 8-2021 will have a 10-minute time limit for speaking and must state their full name for the record. All right, related to the land use amendment bylaw 8-2021. Mr. Orwa.
Ask Ms. Monks to proceed, please.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. This public hearing is bringing forward a bylaw 8-2021 amendment to the Town of Tabor Land Use Bylaw 13-2020 in order to proceed with the Manufactured Housing Initiative. Once again, we've been unable to proceed with our typical public consultation for this project. A survey was set up on the Planning Public Consultation website, and ads were placed in the Tabor Times, March 24th and 31st, advising the public of the link and calling for any concerns or input. Circulations were sent to properties adjacent to the site and to our regular internal and external stakeholders. Administration is working to ensure that any changes to statutory plans and the land use bylaw are in place in order to move forward the manufactured housing community that council has been working on for several years. Planning has prepared, with consultation from the manufactured housing industry, a direct control district specific to the 60-acre parcel that council has obtained for affordable housing. The direct control district allows for development of the condominium plan and must be in place prior to subdivision occurring. The district itself is provided for council's review, as well as the proposed map amendment identifying the lands. At the March 22nd regular meeting of council, first reading of bylaw 8-2021, providing for the amendment to bylaw 13-2020 was given. The virtual public hearing is potentially the final step in public consultation process, allowing council to review all information prior to making their decision. Following this, council could potentially give second and third reading to bylaw 8-2021.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Monk says the Plan and Economic Development Office received any written briefs against proposed bylaw 8-2021.
We have not.
All right, thank you. Is anyone present who wishes to speak against proposed bylaw number 8-2021? Is anyone present wishing to speak against proposed bylaw number 8-2021 for a second time? Anyone present wishing to speak for against bylaw 8-2021 for a third and final time? All right, seeing none, thank you. Ms. Monk says Plan and Economic Development Office received any written briefs for proposed bylaw 8-2021?
We have not.
All right, thank you. Is anyone present who wishes to speak for proposed bylaw number 8-2021? Anyone present wishing to speak for proposed bylaw 8-2021 for a second time? And anyone present who wishing to speak for proposed bylaw number 8-2021 for third and final time? All right, seeing none, ask for motion related to the public hearing. Someone prepared to make that motion? Councilor Garner.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make that motion that council accepts the materials provided at this public hearing for information.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And I do declare this public hearing now closed. All right, related to the regular scheduled Tabor Town Council meeting for today's date, April 12th, 2021, I call the meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Councillor Garner. Motion on the table.
Your worship,
Councillor Stravas.
just a follow-up here, your worship. In the last few meetings, there's been some items added to the meeting. I'd like to think you should poll all the council members again to make sure that if they want something spoken about, that they add it at this time and not during the meeting, please.
All right, subject to
Well,
standing
you
item
allowed
zone.
several other items to be discussed, questions to be asked of administration that weren't on the meeting. So this is the time to add them to it. It's got to follow protocol.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 3, adoption of the minutes. Minutes of the regular meeting of the council, March 22nd, 2021. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, the March 22 minutes is before you for consideration.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on March 22nd, 2021 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item number 4, business arise from the minutes. There are none. Item 4.1, Town of Raymond and Terrelta Solar Energy Project presentation. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, so in follow-up to council's resolution, we have a team from Raymond and I believe they are online. So I'm not very sure how they're gonna start. Just double check if,
I guess just to clarify who's online with us there, and
just
that
wanted
would
to
be
make
helpful.
sure.
Hi, this is Greg Robinson here with Town of Raymond. I'm the Director of Community Development.
All right, thank you. And anyone else?
Yeah, I'm Curtis Pratt. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the Town of Raymond.
All right, thank you.
I'm Jason Atkinson, owner of Proactive Planet Solutions.
Sorry, I didn't catch the name
Partnered
there.
with
What?
Proactive Planet Solutions. Jason Atkinson.
Jason. All right, thank you. And anyone else? All right, that would be it. And we have Mr. Campbell with us this morning, or this afternoon rather, sorry. Mr. Campbell, come forward and welcome today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Worship, and members of council. Do I have control of this? Oh, look at that. Perfect, thank you. So today is kind of a follow-up of presentation and a delegation that attended the town of Raymond. My name is Marcus Campbell, owner-operator of Terrelta. As heard, we have Curtis Pratt, CAO of Town of Raymond, Greg Robinson, who's the Director of Communications. My partner, Laura Shivak, is also on the line from Medicine Hat, and due to COVID protocols, we figured it would be best to dial in. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with the town of Raymond, as many of you were in attendance for the tour, but we're going to give you just kind of a quick overview of how the town got to be net zero. Oh. So early on, there was a desire from the town of Raymond to take advantage of some of the great solar resources. So this project was originally designed in partnership with the town of Raymond and NMAX Energy. So there was a number of steps that took place, formal feasibility studies, and then there was a certain desire from their council and their CAO to see this project take place. So utility bills were gathered, list of municipal sites were gathered, and a presentation was more or less built for the town of Raymond to see where we could get them to with certain solar projects. Along that way, we identified some projects that the buildings weren't completely structurally sound. So we did a little bit of adapting and changed the program as time went on. Overall, the town of Raymond took advantage of a list of sites. So the fire hall, their town shop, the aquatic center, the arena, town hall, Victoria Sports Park. The carport at Victoria Park was added after the fact as a result of a couple of the facilities not being structurally strong enough to support the loads. The golf course, and then the Ridgewater water treatment plant. So overall, almost 3,000 solar modules were installed in the town of Raymond. We've got over 1 megawatt of solar energy, meeting all of their municipal electrical needs. Just a little bit of the overview of some of the sites. So the fire hall, kind of a smaller site, 27.8. Town shop was 30 kilowatts. The ice arena, you can see up in the top corner here. Both sides of the facility were were used in a barn-style roof, and then you can see the aquatic center down here just below. The Victoria roof, or the Victoria Park rooftop over their beautiful sports facility. Their town hall, which again was another project that was added towards the end of the program. The carport, which is kind of the showpiece of the whole system. It's quite an impressive structure in their parking lot. The golf course, and then their water treatment facility. Overall per site, we've got just over 2,800 modules. And you can see here the different sizes of the solar systems. So the idea behind this was to make each one of these facilities net zero. So does everybody understand what net zero means? Where we're creating as much as that facility needs. So a good range of modules placed on each one of their sites. And then we get into the nuts and bolts of the system. So you can see what their down payments were, percentage of the funding that was taken advantage of. So this funding came through the MCCAC, which was the Municipal Climate Change Action Center. So a fairly large chunk of money was provided to help make this program work for the town of Raymond. And you can see what we got as far as their price per watt after the funding was applied. So some pretty low numbers there. 2.44 being the highest, and that one was for the carport. So that's $2.44 per installed watt of solar energy. The financial analysis that was completed on each one of these sites with the levelized cost of electricity over a 25-year period, and we were forecasting those energy rates to sit anywhere between 0.7 and 0.8. I think the highest one was 0.9 there. So those are pretty manageable energy costs coming from solar. And then the internal rate of return, town hall was the highest. It came in at 11.331%. So some fairly good internal rate of return. And then the warm fuzzy stuff that comes from putting this stuff on as part of your town. So the GHG offsets, which is really becoming a hot topic now with the carbon pricing. So there's even more advantage for us to be selling these carbon offsets. So that was the presentation that was put together as part of the town getting to net zero. The AMSP actually took it upon themselves to put together a report based on what took place in the town of Raymond. And I think this has all been included as part of your guys' package. A fairly good report put together by the government of Alberta, the AUMA, and the rural municipalities of Alberta. So again, another snapshot. So 9 municipal sites, first net zero electrically municipality in the province of Alberta. And 100% of their operations are covered through their solar generation. So this was quite a project. This was a forward-thinking council, driven mostly by Curtis Pratt, the CAO, and they wanted to give themselves a leg up moving into the future and lock in their solar or lock in their energy prices for the next 25 to 30 years. And that's what solar does for a facility, is it locks in your energy rate for the next 25, 30 plus years. Any questions for the town of Raymond on the report? Any questions for us before we move into the next part?
Or any questions arising whatsoever? Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Campbell, is it?
Yes, it is, sir.
Maintenance issues since the installation, which has been how long, please?
Yeah, so maintenance is an ongoing concern with any piece of equipment. These units, or all of the systems that were installed, came with 15-year bumper-to-bumper warranties, so there have been no costs incurred by the town of Raymond. The golf course, we will admit that there have been a few modules replaced because of an errant tee shot here and an errant tee shot there. But overall, it's been pretty trouble-free. And the nice thing about this is that none of the costs have been incurred. So we have had some power optimizers. There's small electronic devices behind each module that have had to be replaced. Just regular wear and tear on the system and maintenance costs, but nothing incurred by the town of Raymond. It's all been part of the NMAX package.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, carry on, please.
Okay, so as part of our opportunity to be in front of you guys, which we really appreciate, we figured it would be best to give you guys a real snapshot of what the town of Tabor could potentially do. So we appreciate the opportunity. We were given some electrical data for the Aqua Fun Center and the hockey rink and curling rink, and I think there's a health club in there as well. So what we put together was a preliminary look at what a system could do for the town of Tabor. So obviously everybody knows in Alberta, but it's no secret anymore that we have some of the best solar energy in the world. Our data puts to shame some other parts of the province. We have the best sun in all of Canada. So a little bit on Proactive and Teralta. Jason Atkinson, who's with me, or with us, was the past director of operations for NMAX Energy, and has recently left NMAX and now has started his own company called Proactive Planet. Jason and I have worked together for, well, almost 12 years. So just a little bit of a snapshot. Together, we have implemented almost 40 megawatts of solar across the province of Alberta. Teralta at one time was the number one EPC contractor for NMAX, so we were the contractors that helped develop and build everything in Raymond. We've done a number of projects, so we've got a long history together, and we couldn't be happier that Jason is out on his own. How we deliver, so we've got a long-standing relationship with high-quality manufacturers. Bankable companies that are going to be around in 25, 30 years when these systems are getting to their lifespan. So we've built really strong relationships which allow us to give the best pricing possible to our clients, and we are full EPC contractors, so we handle everything from start to finish. Grant facilitation, permitting, installation, and when you take my knowledge paired up with Jason's knowledge, we've got almost 25 years in the industry, which makes us, one of Southern Alberta's, if not Alberta's, premier installers. I don't like to admit that stuff, but we've been at this a long time. Some of the products that we deal with, Flow car chargers, these are all top tier 1 manufacturers. So these aren't companies that have just come to the marketplace. And one of the advantages of our history in the industry is we've seen the fly-by-night companies come, and we've done the internal studies on the bankability of these companies. So you'll see companies like Fronius, SMA, Jinko, Longy, all companies that have been in the game a long time. Our program that we offer, very similar to what NMAX was offering before. just with maybe a little less, big business corporate side to it. So full turnkey systems behind the meter. And then we also do have financing options, so we can reduce your capital. We also offer 5 to 15-year warranties and terms. And the goal for this is to get these systems installed behind the meter, right? So that you guys are actually using your solar energy first, and then whatever extra you're producing, it gets pushed back to the grid and you get your utility, whatever your retail rate is for that billing cycle. So, microgen. Microgen in Alberta, we want to set up a process called net billing. So the facility uses your energy first. The solar energy that we're producing, anything extra that it needs, it would pull from the retailer. Anything extra that we're producing gets pushed back to the retailer. Pretty standard process in the province of Alberta. So the funding available is through the Alberta Municipal Solar Program. So there is some funding available for the town of Tabor, but time is running out. It's delivered through Municipal Climate Change Action Center. And you can see the different variables as to what the town would be accessible to. So, you know, under 10 kilowatts, we're going to get you 90 cents a watt. 10 to 150, we're going to get you 75 cents a watt, and so on and so forth. So there is a first-time application bonus of 25 cents a watt to a maximum of $250,000 for the town. And we would be more than happy to facilitate that for you. So given the data that we were provided, so your electrical consumption, we came at it with 3 different options for you guys. So the carport in the Aqua Fun Center parking lot. So we have 168 kilowatts of solar on 3 different arrays. The one in the middle here is a double wing. SMA high P converters, 600 volt connected to your existing infrastructure. So this carport structure, based on our modeling, would produce over 180,000 kilowatt hours a year in year 1. And we'll get to what that's going to do for you guys. So this, I believe, so the cost on this one would be just under $500,000. $286 per watt. We could get potentially $100,000 back from the government, which would drop you down to $226 price per watt installed. So upfront, we use the grant money from the province as the down payment, and then we finance it to you guys over a 15-year term, 3% interest, $2,600. So this one doesn't look as great as the 2 following ones. The IRR and the NPV on this are a little bit lower. We would like to see them a little bit higher, and the levelized cost of electricity is a little high on this one. The rooftop solar array. So this would be flush mounted, face great exposure along the highway. There it would be a beautiful showpiece. So 303 modules, again, 600 volt inverters tied into your connections. And this would get you, I thought I had this on here, but I don't. No, so I don't know. I thought on the proposal, does anyone, it's okay. I think overall, I think this was about a 64 to 65% electrical offset for the swimming pool and with the carport system. So overall, we were going to offset about 64% of that facility's electrical consumptions. But I also understand that there's a CHP that's maybe on the way. The one thing is we would have to marry up and see what the CHP would do with the solar, because the CHP is going to create a little bit of electricity for you as well. But the downside to the CHP is you guys will be paying the carbon tax on that natural gas now, because that's one of the things that's changed with the Supreme Court of Canada's decision of carbon pricing. We're starting to see that carbon tax be applied to natural gas consumption, but we're not seeing it on the electrical side of our utility bills. So the rooftop array came in at 242, $1.78 a watt. Government funding, we'd get roughly $72,000. So after the funding has been applied, we're going to be at about $1.20 or $1.25 a watt. And you can see right out of the gate here, you guys are cash positive on this rooftop array. The IRR on this one is 13.9, and the NPV is a lot better than the carport side of things. The curling rink. This was quite a good design. So this is a large scale system, and this would get this facility to net zero. So we can create as much energy as we need with the solar array. So a little bit of a different design here. These modules here on the north facing side would actually sit flat on that roof with a 5-degree tilt. So they actually would sit flat on that roof. This one worked out to just under 2,000 modules on that roof, and it would be a combination ballasted system. So we use a concrete block to weigh down the solar array, so it's non-penetrating. All of our stuff comes with engineered stamp drawings, so that it's not going to fly off the roof on you. This one came in at 1.387, $1.59 a watt. Approximately $400,000 in funding from the MCCAC, and after the after the funding's applied, we work out to $1.19. So this has an internal rate of return of 100%. So this is your cash positive right out of the gate on this one. 15-year warranty as we provide through all our stuff. Things that it's subject to, so structural engineering. Before we go ahead and do any of this stuff, we need to make sure that the facilities can handle the load that we're going to add to them. Municipal permits, engineering, and microgen applications. But again, this is something that we handle on your behalf. And then the next steps would be to review the process. So just a little highlight on some of the projects that we've completed. Town of Cardston, Devon Community Center. Mosaic is up in the north part of just south of Edmonton. And then we've got Camrose. Brazeau County took a good jump, and then the Leduc Rec Center, which was at one time the largest rooftop solar system, and we're in the process of working with them right now. Genesis Place in Airdrie took the title, but Leduc is trying to get that title, and we're working with them to add some carports in their parking lot. So lots of opportunity for this town. Lots of good exposure. How many municipal buildings do we have altogether?
Mr. Roy or Mr. Scher, would you have that number off the top of your head? 26
buildings.
All right, thank you.
I'm sure we could find one or two in there that would work for you guys. Any questions? Any questions for the Raymond crew on feedback as to how the experience was maybe with us and some of the advantages or disadvantages that they've come across?
Right, thank you. Councilor Bruin.
Sorry, I got to turn my mic on. Thank you for the presentation, very interesting. Say the building here I see with the auditorium and the civic center there. What if we have roof failure or something, we have a leak, how do we get to it? And who's responsible for removing panels and putting them back?
So like on the Aqua Funds?
Any build.
So that area would have to be located, and then we would come in and remove those panels so that it could be looked at. One of the preemptive steps is to look at roof integrity before we go ahead and make that call. We're not in the business of putting a Band-Aid over a roof that may not stand up. For example, we had one in Raymond, the RCMP detachment. When we did our preliminary assessment or our preliminary design, Jason had designed an array to go on that, but when we got up onto that roof, it wasn't feasible. So, due diligence leading up to that. Lots of people ask questions like, what do we do in the event of a hailstorm or, the roof gets damaged by hail? Typically, the roof underneath of where the solar arrays are mounted is going to last a lot longer than the surrounding areas. But typically, we would lift them off so that access could be granted.
Okay, and now that's what worries me. If we have to take them off, whose responsibility is removing them? That'd be the town cost.
That would be a town cost, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Counselor Strauss.
Yes, your worship, to our gentleman here. Just a clarification, you mentioned these little modules that are behind each panel. Perhaps you can just tell council a little bit about how they work, because each one of these, you can tell how much power is being generated from each.
Absolutely, and that's through the monitoring packages. So what we did in the town of Raymond is we used a Solar Edge product with a power optimizer behind each module. So what it does to help on days that we have snow cover, maybe on a few of the modules, these power optimizers will buck and boost the voltage, so that if we have 10 modules in a string and 4 of them are covered in snow or maybe experience a little bit of shade, the other 6 modules will say, hey guys, our 4 brothers and sisters over here are struggling a little bit. Let's see if we can't boost and buck our voltage to create that missing energy. The nice thing about with the monitoring packages, we can actually, that's module level monitoring, which is a good way to see what each individual panel is producing. So it is one opportunity out there. And the nice thing about the monitoring packages, you're not actually just looking at the roof going, boy, I hope it's working today. You actually have that real-time data to support what's being done. So we use a combination of technologies based on array and the site conditions. So on a carport, for example, we wouldn't use the power optimizers on there. We would use a string inverter, a standard string inverter. But if we had a facility that maybe had some shading on it or some tall pine trees or something around it, we would then employ that power optimizer device in behind each module.
So in a follow-up, just one other piece of information. So if a golf ball hits one of those, you know which one is down, and it tells you that right away.
Absolutely. So we can, that's the nice thing about the module level monitoring, is that we do have that real-time data, which is great also for the production warranties that come with these modules. So module manufacturers are now warranting the power output of their modules. So degradation, it's called. So if I put your worship out in the sun for the next 25 years, he's going to break down and deteriorate. So what we're going to hope is that he doesn't go beyond 80%. So these module manufacturers warranty the power output that they will not deteriorate more than 20%. So I think the degradation factor on a lot of the manufacturers, the Jinko ones, is like 0.005% per year. So we do anticipate these modules to break down a little bit over time, but the manufacturers warrant that it won't decrease in power production more than 20%. With, to your point, that when we have that module level monitoring, if we look at those 10 modules and they're all producing 410, 408, 406, and then we have one that's maybe down at 205, we know that there's maybe a problem there. So that allows us as the contractor to, monitor your system on your behalf, which is another sidebar to the relationship that we build with our clients.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Campbell. Thank you for your presentation, sir. Very interesting. It seems to me, having studied some of this, that the larger the array, the more cost effective it becomes in a sense. Am I correct in surmising that?
Yes. Yes, it's based strictly on volume, right? So the more modules we buy, the cheaper we buy them for, the cheaper we can give them to you for. That's one of the procurement channels that we go through. So we try to mitigate those costs by procuring large amounts of product all at one time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, follow up, if I
Sure,
may.
absolutely.
Am I correct in saying that there's 1,000 kilowatts and a megawatt?
Yes.
Thank you. So the one on the curling club is 873 kilowatt, which is coming close to one.
Yep.
It's gonna come in at about $1.4 million. That's a pretty reasonable price, it seems to me.
I like your thought. I like where you're going.
I was involved in hydropower, sir, 35 years ago.
Yep.
With an irrigation company, and we put hydropower in for about $1.2 million. That's 35 years ago. So I'm surprised how cost-effective this is becoming. And as a follow-up, Mr. Mayor, if I may, if we wait long enough, these panels are getting cheaper all the time, and wait long enough, we're getting for nothing, right?
So that I like where you're going with that one as well. If you had asked me if I ever thought I'd see the price of solar where it is today, back when I started in 2008, it wouldn't have happened. The very first system that we installed was a 6-panel system for a customer in Medicine Hat, Alberta. It was 6 panels and it cost them $16,000. That was over $11 a watt back in 2008. We are starting to see the leveling out though. So over the last couple of years, the price per watt has been fluctuating between that, $1.85 to $2.50. As we get better on the installation side, that's where a lot of the savings comes from, is a fast turnkey operation that's installed efficiently. And we feel like we have that in what we provide. Ironically, the market plays some games where they'll say there's module shortages and then there's an excess of modules. And the latest dialogue, as I'm sure everybody's aware, with the price of lumber right now, a 2x4 costs you $20 at Home Depot or the lumber yard. Supply chain issues are the main concern right now. Silver costs are going up. So we are starting to see module manufacturers increase their prices a little bit, but that's most likely out of fear. So I think the cost is at, and I could be wrong, but it's as low as I've seen it, and it seems to have held for the last 2+ years.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Strauss.
Yes, just a question, Mr. Campbell here. Where are these modules manufactured at? Can you give some information on that?
So all over the world. Lots come from China, lots come from Germany. We tend to stick with Korean-made modules. The Chinese modules carry a tariff on them. So we as a company and as an organization try to stick with high-quality Tier 1 modules that are manufactured in Korea. So that's where the majority of them. But, cell development is being done in Indonesia. There are people manufacturing all across in many different areas. The one thing that we also put a lot of stock in is the ethics that goes into the module manufacturing. Are they using sweatshop labor to assemble their modules? What is their grade? And so we stick with the A's and the B's.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councilor Garner.
No questions arising because I was part of that tour a year ago that we went and looked at this. So it was a nice, refreshing opportunity to hear it again. But at this point in time, having pondered this for a while and studied this material, I'm prepared to make a motion at this time, if I could.
All right.
And the motion would read that council directs administration to engage Terra Alta on actual costs and cost savings by installing solar panels on our town facilities and report back to council with their findings for further deliberations moving forward.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And thank you so much for your presentation, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much.
And our guests on the line as well. Thank you for presenting and as well as the original tour. That's very much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's nice to see everybody again. A couple other, I don't think you were on the tour. You missed out. And Councilor Bruin, you missed out, but it's a good facility. If you ever get a chance and you're down in that area, check out the Raymond. Lots of good stuff. Thank you very much for your
Perfect.
time.
Thank you again so much. All right, moving on to item number 5, bylaws. Item 5.1, second and third reading bylaw 9-2021 Northwest Area Structure Plan. Mr. Irwa.
Yes, His Worship, I would call upon Ms. Monks again to cover the second and third reading. And this is just a follow-up of our public hearing session earlier.
All right, thank you, Ms. Monks.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So as presented earlier at the public hearing, administration is seeking second and third reading for the map amendment bylaw 9-2021 to the existing Northwest Area Structure Plan. With the public hearing today, all legislative requirements have been met with regard to the Northwest Area Structure Plan amendment. But if council has any questions or concerns, administration is able to answer or provide any feedback for consideration. Otherwise, at this time, we are seeking second and third reading of bylaw 9-2021.
All right, thank you. Councilor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just some questions with the concerns Mr. Kemp had about the land being disturbed. Surely we're capable of returning the topsoil a little better than they used to do 30 years ago and make it a little more presentable. And what is our time frame? When will we be digging across that property?
So through his worship, that is our hope that we'll be able to, my understanding from reading some of the information was that it was packed too hard, and that was what was causing some of the issues. So we'll probably do a little bit more research on that prior to moving it forward to see if there is any statistics on that data. And then with regard to when we would be installing, we are still working with the landowner and this Mr. Camps as well to see if there are some areas that we can provide him where we won't be developing right away so that he could plant some cover crops, also assisting us with keeping the land healthy and erosion and sediment control while he earns some extra funds from planting those lands. So we are working with them on that, and so I would hope that we would be able to get in after the potato crops have been removed this fall.
So we'd be able to start on the inner development.
That
Right
is
away.
correct. We would start on that right away, depending on
How
we
it
move forward
goes, yeah.
with capital.
But so we wouldn't be doing anything with his land, you think, until fall?
Through his worship, no, we would not.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Strauss.
Yes, your worship, we've got a couple of councils here that are attached to farms, Councilor Bruin and Councilor Beckering from the past. My question would be, because the soil has been disturbed, but the soil is disturbed when any irrigation district also goes in and putting piping underground. Would there be a correlation that you would see from these other installations as well, or is this just a one-off that something happened with the town facilities that we put into that pipeline there? I don't quite follow, because the irrigation pipes are put through farmers' fields all the time. So is there any substantive information on that as well?
Through his worship, I did some very brief research, and it seemed to indicate if they were gas or oil pipelines that the fuel running through the line caused the line to create some heat, which would often result in over-ripening of the crop or earlier ripening of the crop. But again, I think that probably will be dependent on depth and materials, and I couldn't find anything substantive that kind of said, here's the aha moment of what you shouldn't do. So I'm not certain if it was something to do with materials in the soil at the time that perhaps wasn't just the pipeline. I'm not exactly certain. I can't give you any information on that. I would just, you're right, we've seen it with pipelines and with other lines in other areas, and I'm not exactly certain what's going on there.
So,
Great, thank you.
Just, your worship, just in follow-up to this here. So were we made aware of this situation previously, or is this just something that has popped up just recently here?
Through his worship, I don't believe we've been made aware of it, or at least I didn't see anything in the file. I don't know if there's anything historically that what we were made aware of, but not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to Councilor Stroh's, I do have some experience with buried pipelines and disturbing of soils, and there's no doubt that if you disturb soils to a deep extent, there are some ramifications, there is some side effects, I would say. However, I agree with Councilor Bruin when he said that there's been some great strides made of late regarding removal of topsoil properly and restoring the land to its original condition as much as possible. And I would say as much as possible is probably 95% in my view, but I'm not an expert on the matter. I would say that soil type makes a difference. I think the sandier soils, which in this particular case is sandier soil, leave a more lasting effect, Mr. Mayor, if I may, than the heavier clay soil, because the heavier clay soil, you can make a better job of removing the topsoil because there's more of it, generally speaking. And that's all I will say about that.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've laid a bit of pipe in my life, and I think it's all in preparation in the removing the topsoil and how you you put it all back. You can Google Earth property all over and generally find out where a pipeline's been put. But it is a lot to do, like Mr. Beckering was saying, how they cover it back up. If they remove the topsoil, it shouldn't be really a noticeable difference.
Just a clarification question for either Councillor Bruin and or Councillor Beckering. Is not depth a major factor as far as how that may or may not affect what the suggestion is? Different crops have different root depth requirements, et cetera. So to me, I'm sure depth is involved somehow, but I'm just looking for clarification. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's a good comment. I think the deeper the root structure of a particular crop, the more the effect might show. But at the same time, there should be enough topsoil to remediate that, I think. But I'm not I know a little about farming, but I'm not an expert in agrology. So, yeah, but it does make a difference.
All right.
These days it's being done properly anyway, Mr. Mayor, so I have no concerns.
All right, thank you. Just from my perspective, that's the first I'd ever heard of that as a potential issue. There's so much digging and pipe burying going on for infrastructure. It's so common. You'd think you'd have heard of something about that previous, but again, it may be something new we're not completely aware of, but that's good to know. Thank you for the information. Thank you for the comments. Any other questions arising? Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prepared to make a motion.
All right.
The council gives second reading to bylaw 9-2021 Northwest Area Structure Plan Amendment to bylaw 21-2016 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So we're prepared to make the third required motion. Councillor Strauss?
Yes, Your Worship, I'll make the third motion here that the second motion here. Council gives third reading to bylaw 20-2021 Northwest Area Structure Plan Amendment to bylaw 21-2016 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Untitled 5.2, second and third reading, land use bylaw amendment, direct control bylaw 8-2021. Mr. Roy. Great, thank you, Ms. Monks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So as presented earlier at the public hearing, administration is seeking second and third reading for the map amendment, bylaw 8-2021 to the existing land use bylaw 13-2020. With the public hearing today, all legislative requirements have been met with regard to the land use bylaw direct control and map amendment. But if council has any questions or concerns, administration is able to answer or provide any feedback for consideration. Otherwise, at this time, administration is seeking second and third reading of bylaw 8-2021.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm prepared to make a motion, but I'd like to make one comment. Direct control is the way to go, right, Madam Phyllis?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that council gives second reading to bylaw 8-2021 at 10, amending land use bylaw 13-2020 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Chavez? All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Chavez?
Yes, I'll do
Sorry,
the
Councillor.
next motion. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I thought Councillor Bruin had a question, but you're okay?
No, I have no question.
Okay, Counselor Strauss.
You can go ahead. Council gives third reading to bylaw 8-2021, amending the land use bylaw 13-2020 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Item 5.3, proposed supplementary assessment bylaw 12-2021, Mr. Orwa.
Yes, I would call upon Ms. Donna Weiss to explain the content of this bylaw to council. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Ms. Weiss.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is a proposed supplementary assessment bylaw. It's required annually to authorize our assessors to assess improvements that have not previously been assessed in the year.
All right, pretty basic.
Pretty basic.
Okay, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Counselor Bruin?
I have a question. Does this mean we're gonna have tax assessors going all over the place looking at houses again?
Well, it's the same every year. It's based on permits, really. If they can get a permit, then they will come in, and I believe yearly they come in and go through the permits to see what's completed, and then I don't know if they actually go to the houses, especially now. They'll just drive by, or else they send out questionnaires. Or
Okay.
they may phone the owner.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Counselor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just prepared to make a motion.
All right,
I move that council gives first reading to bylaw 12-2021, being the supplementary assessment bylaw for the town of Tabor as presented.
all right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Someone prepared to make the second motion? Counselor Strauss?
Yes, your worship, that council gives second reading to bylaw 12-2021, being the supplementary assessment bylaw of the town of Tabor as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Someone prepared to make the third required motion? Counselor Garner?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make that motion. The council unanimously agrees to proceed with third and final reading of bylaw 12-2021, being the supplementary assessment bylaw of the town of Tabor as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Someone prepared to make the fourth motion? Counselor Strauss?
Yes, your worship, that council gives the third and final reading to bylaw 12-2021, being the supplementary assessment bylaw for the town of Tabor as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. On to item 5.4, temporary mandatory face covering bylaw 22-2020. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, I would call upon Ms. Vanham to explain some details here before we open discussion with council.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Vanham, please proceed.
Good afternoon, your worship and council.
Good afternoon.
Your ProCup has previously requested that this bylaw come back to council for further consideration of continuing on with the bylaw or having that discussion. And so that's why it is in front of you today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Bruin.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council continues to follow provincial recommendations with regards to wearing masks and follow their guidelines.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Excuse me, could you have your microphone turned
Yes.
on? I didn't hear the motion. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry.
Sorry, Ms. Van Ham. I'll make the motion that Town of Tabor follows provincial guidelines in regards to mask wearing and follow their direction.
Right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? Councilor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can appreciate the motion that Council Bruin makes and made. However, it doesn't really address the issue at hand. Mr. Mayor, if I may, we have to follow the Alberta Health Services guidelines. We have no choice in that matter. We're talking about a Town of Tabor municipal bylaw. So we should discuss that.
Yes, that's correct.
aspects.
So, thank you, Councilor Beckering. I guess for Councilor Bruin, I believe Councilor Beckering is very accurate with that statement. So
I
with-
would assume that we could say no masks in the town of Tabor and pass that bylaw. Provincial guidelines, bylaws override anything we decide. So I think my motion to follow provincial guidelines with wearing masks is sufficient.
All right, thank you. I guess just for clarification purposes and or in all fairness, the discussion was basically to discuss our own bylaw. So I'm not suggesting you take that off the table, Councillor Bruin, but I think we probably need some further discussion on our present temporary bylaw.
Okay.
That's fair to yourself before we get to that?
For certain, sure.
All right, thank you. Councillor Strauss.
Yes, Your Worship, I think before we proceed with this originally was a regional initiative, so that would work between all the MD plus the little communities around. So, you know, I think to be fair, if we're going to rescind this, I think we should contact all of our mutual partners in the area again, and this should be done collaboratively so that everybody in the area and the MD and the towns all around us that follow the same guidelines. So when you go from one district to the next, you know exactly where you stand. And I think probably that's what we need to do with this here. And just a little footnote: City of Lethbridge just extended their masking bylaw, you know, to the balance of the year. So,
all right.
Unfortunately, these things are not going away.
Thank you, Councillor Strauss. I'm not disagreeing. I'm thinking in all fairness that that probably requires a motion in that regard. However, we have to deal with Councillor Bruno's motion first, and I will do that. But again, we're still in the discussion phase, so I'll go to Councillor Firth, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was not aware that we were considering rescinding this bylaw. As with the City of Lethbridge extending their bylaw, and as previously discussed, the public health order in place that requires mandatory face coverings. I believe that leaving our bylaw in place, even though the public health order would supersede that, I think it just underlines that and shows the town of Tabor's support for public health guidelines.
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth. Councillor Bruin?
I would appreciate a friendly amendment if Councillor First would like to add to my motion.
All right, Councillor Firth, you prepared to do that?
Certainly, I can try and fashion one. What was your original motion?
That the town of Tabor follows provincial guidelines in regards to wearing masks.
And that the town of Tabor leaves their face covering bylaw in place until such public health orders have been lifted by the province.
And I would accept that amendment.
All right, thank you. Councillor Strauss, you're still willing to do your part in the motion with your suggestion with the collaborative format as well?
Well, Your Worship, I think that pretty much covers it, that we're leaving the motion in effect, so there's no point, unless one of the other communities reaches out to us that wants to rescind theirs. I think this covers it quite nicely.
All right. Councillor, or Mr. Roa?
No, I just want to check with Vanham if she got the motion.
Ms. Van Ham?
I did get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Friendly amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you. On to item 6, action items, item 6.1, declaration of validity and sufficiency of petition. Mr. Roa.
Yes, again, I would call upon Ms. Vanham to explain again the declaration about this petition to council, please.
Great, thank you, Ms. Van Ham.
Hello again, Your Worship and Council. So the municipality, as you know, received a petition that was submitted and addressed to town council from someone who identified himself as the co-founder and organizer of an anti-COVID alliance. And the petition's purpose statement was to have the removal of Tabor's mandatory mask bylaw. This bylaw, as you know, was instigated on November 30th by council at that time, and that's the one that we just discussed. So we had a legal opinion, and you've seen that. It is an agenda item in closed session. And just to have them take a look at the validity and the sufficiency of the petition. So there are certain legislative requirements of a valid petition. There are several sufficiency requirements dictated by the Municipal Government Act for any petition to be valid. as set out in sections 222 through 225 of the MGA. Sections 222 of the MGA mandates that all the electors of the town are eligible to be petitioners. Section 223 states that to be sufficient, a petition must be signed by electors of the municipality equal to 10% of the population. There are more requirements under the Municipal Government Act outlining the sufficiency and the validity of a petition. Some of them are counting of the petitioners, how they are to be counted, requirements of number of signatures as mentioned, a witness of the signature, swearing an affidavit, the date of the signature, and a signed statement of the representative of the required, along with others. So it is before you today because the requirement is for the CAO to declare if a petition is valid or not. There's also a requirement for it to be declared within a certain time frame of receiving the petition. And so it is before you with the recommended motion, as it is not viewed that this petition is sufficient or valid. However, it is at the discretion of council you do retain the discretion as whether or not you would like to act in any manner in relation to the subject matter of the petition. So I am available if you have any questions, but it is presented for you in the RFD.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Thank
Vidal. Councilor Bruin.
Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make this motion now. Council accepts the CAO's declaration to the Town of Tabor Council that the petition stating the removal of Tabor's mandatory mask bylaw 22-2020 is not sufficient to meet the requirements of the Municipal Government Act, and it was not submitted within the 60-day limitation period provided under Section 2332 of the Municipal Government Act. Additionally, even if the petition had been received within the time period required by Section 2332 of the Municipal Government Act, the petition does not have a significant number of signatures to satisfy Section 2232A of the Municipal Government Act.
All right, thank you. Very lengthy motion on the table. Well done. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you.
It was sufficient.
Attaboy. All right. We just, short adjournment? Just a 5-minute adjournment, please. Councilor Garner.
I make a motion that we take a 5-minute recess.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Right, if we could reconvene the meeting, please, and move on to item 6.2, capital expenditure console, endpoints and software. Mr. Orwa.
To the police commission, and probably I just hand it over to the chief here to address it with council.
All right, thank you, Chief Abella.
Your worship and council, it's good timing for this proposal. It's National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, and I think that's serendipity. But with that, you'll find the information contained within the RFD was quite specific in relation to our request. And the fact that at the end of the day, the purpose of this is to bring revenues into the Tabor Police Service for the purposes of dispatching and monitoring, as well as call taking and answering for community peace officer programs that are not only close to us, but are further far. All of Alberta, for example. So this did go to commission at a special meeting because urgency. There's some urgency to this for us. But at that meeting, they passed unanimously a request to come back to council, and that's why I'm before you today.
All right, thank you. Was that just by coincidence it happens on this particular week, or did that just kind of work out that way?
That's the serendipity part. It's just good timing.
All right, good information to know, just the same. All right, Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the chief, a question. You said you've been doing this for the past 3 years, right? So could you not have forecasted this in your budget for 2021, sir?
No, I anticipated that question coming from you today because it's the same one you asked me with the guns. And I can tell you no. We did not anticipate any dispatching outside of our geographic boundary. So Colehurst, Ridge Regional, Coaldale, MD of Tabor. What's happened is that there's been other community peace officer programs that have been attempting to get the same service that we're delivering through the Lacombe Police Service. They were going to do the central and northern Alberta work. Unfortunately, they did not have the proper connection with the AFRAC system through the ICCS model and are unable to perform the function through the AFRAC's policies. So currently, we're the only police service to be able to do that in Alberta. Not able, but that are conducting this service right now. And as a result, because of Lacombe's inability to do it, the other agencies reached out to us recently. So I didn't anticipate Lacombe was going to do it. So that's the answer. I actually did not anticipate us doing work afar.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a follow-up then, if I may, thank you, Chief. Is there a complete cost recovery here, or in your view, on the road, or within a number of years, or what are you thinking?
Well, I think there is. I was asked, we lost $110,000 when Alberta Health Services left. I've been able to gather $65,000 a year now. With the anticipated request of today, happening, I may be able to see up to $22,500 more in revenue. Plus more contracts. So this gives me the opportunity to get more contracts. So it's getting close to what the request of Commission and Council have been to recoup those funds, and so I do see it. I do see it as a revenue generator for us.
All right, thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to commend the chief and the police department on the great job they've done with this. We're ahead of the game on our communications here, and the opportunities could only get bigger. And just appreciate the work you've done on this, chief. And I support this motion, so I'd be prepared to make the motion that council approves the capital purchase of the console upgrade, licensing, and expansion of the endpoint and the required hardware, software, and labor not to exceed $40,000 from the capital reserves.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And really a win-win situation, Chief, for the town of Tabor and the Tabor Police Service, so very well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. Thank you, Council.
All right, on to item 6.3, public participation proposed bylaw 2-2021. Mr. Irwa.
The dog bylaw, please.
All right, thank you. Once again, Chief Abella.
Your worship, council. At the last council meeting, you asked for public participation to occur within the proposed dog bylaw 2-2021 that we had brought forth to you at the last meeting. I wasn't aware of the public participation plan policy that exists within the Tabor Police Service, or within the town of Tabor, as I'm a police chief, not a town administrator. So I went through it, I found it, and then I completed it and realized that it had to come back to council for approval of the plan. It's before you. Due to COVID, we can't have the face-to-face meetings or consultations with the public. So we proposed a e-survey to be administered through SurveyMonkey to ask a series of questions to the public to obtain their participation and contributions for any potential new bylaw. And that's what's before you today, is for you to approve that plan.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chief, if I may, public participation or public consultation is a beautiful thing. However, we all know that sometimes the participation and the consultation skews the results of a feeling within the community. I'm trying to get at this. People from outside of the town of Tabor, are they eligible to be consulted and participate in the program?
I would suggest that we will limit the responses to people from our municipality. We'll control that within the survey, but we'll conduct an environmental scan in relation to the other bylaws that are occurring in other municipalities to allow us to better determine, I guess, what the general consensus is of what's going forth provincially with this type of bylaw, to be honest with you. It wasn't contemplated at the first presentation to you. I strictly looked at the bylaw from the perspective of how it affected our Lost Paws Society, our working relationship with the Lost Paws Society, and the contemplation of, because the bylaw was in existence since 2009, right? So, or even before. But with input from some directors, as well as others in community, I think it's a worthwhile step to take the time to go back and have a look at this, and then I'll prepare a report for Mr. Orwa that he can share with council if he wishes with regards to the outcomes of that survey, and then prepare a new draft bylaw. I've already pretty well got that draft done that I'll share with the community in the survey. But I'm hoping that this consultation works, but I do understand the pressures that you're talking about, sir.
All right, thank you. Just for clarification, did I read in the package, it's recommended for roughly 15 days to open the electronic survey format?
That was my thought process, that
Okay.
about 2 weeks, just over
Yes,
2 weeks,
that- okay, I just
that
wanted to
it'll be
clar-
open and get written submissions.
Right, that seems more than reasonable to me as well. And then it's just a matter of compiling that and then coming back with a final report, like you were suggesting.
Right, a final report with a draft bylaw, and then it'll circulate through the directors prior to it coming to you.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Garner.
Mr. Mayor, I can make that motion that council approves the public participation plan for the new dog control bylaw.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
I don't think I have anything else, may I be excused?
Absolutely. Thank you,
Okay,
Chief.
thank you.
All right, on to item 6.4, the Meadows of Tabor Concept Plan. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, just before we move to that item, I think that item 6.2, I just forgot to mention something on the communication line, that is the endpoints and software. I would also want to appreciate those two gentlemen sitting at the corner for working with the police very closely, that is Al and his team, to make sure that this succeeds. So we also recognize the role you're playing in there. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you both for all your contributions and your efforts. Thank you. All right, thank you. Mr. Orwa, just
So
to carry on.
6.4, again, I would call upon Ms. Monks to provide some details of the concept plan you have for the meadows.
Ms. Monks.
Thank you. Your worship and members of council, administration is bringing forward the Meadows of Tabor concept plan for endorsement by resolution. The lands in question fall under the Northwest Area Structure Plan And under that plan, further detailed planning for any of the lands requires a concept plan to be approved by council. Council has been working on this document for some time, beginning with the purchase of the lands in question in 2018. A visioning workshop was held with B&A Planning to work through some options. And while this design does not include different types of housing, it essentially meets with the intent behind the visioning and allows for development of an affordable housing initiative for our citizens in a comprehensively and attractively designed manufactured housing development. The Meadows of Tabor concept plan has been posted on the town planning public consultation page and advertised in the Tabor Times, March 24th and 31st. The Municipal Planning Commission has reviewed the document at a special meeting on March 31st, 2021, and passed a resolution recommending that council approve the concept plan as presented. Administration is available for any questions or comments that council has. Otherwise, we are seeking approval of the concept plan.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approves the Meadows of Tabor concept plan as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6.5, Communities in Bloom Week Proclamation. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, I would call upon Ms. Brennan to address this with council. So this is just a gesture to honor the volunteer groups.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brennan.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
So Tabor Communities in Bloom has requested the Council proclaim the week of May 3rd, 2021 as Communities in Bloom Week. The proclamation is attached for Council's consideration, and just as a note, when we reached out to Alberta Recreation and Parks Association, they did say that Council could choose any week that they wished, but Communities in Bloom, our group here in Tabor, specifically requested May 3rd. So I'm here for any questions if you have any.
All right, thank you. Well, I think in all fairness, it's probably wise and fair to go with Communities in Bloom's choice. However, I'm certainly open to any comments or suggestions or questions of Ms. Brennan as well. All right, with that, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Garner.
I'm happy to make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that council proclaims the week of May 3rd, 2021 as Communities in Bloom Week in the town of Tabor and authorizes the mayor to sign the proclamation form.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.6. Councillor can't say that. Remuneration. Policy C-2. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, I would just request Ms. Brennan to proceed and address this with council.
Thank you. So as per the policy's requirement, administration is bringing forth the council remuneration policy, so you may provide direction on what you would like to appear with council's pay in future. Two options are available in your alternatives in the agenda, depending on how council wishes to proceed. As you will note in your agenda package, option number 1 will keep remuneration the same, whereas option number 2 would direct administration to follow through with the process outlined in the procedure of advertising for a committee of members at large from the public. So we're seeking council's direction on this front.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prepare to make a motion.
All right, thank you.
I move that council directs administration to bring forth the council remuneration policy C-2 to the next regular council meeting for review without changes to council's remuneration.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.7, standing item, council requests. Mr. Orwa.
So this is an opportunity for council to give administration any direction. And if you see on the board, I think we do have 5 standing items. And I believe one of them will drop off this afternoon. That is the Raymond presentation. That is will remain with only 4 items. So again, it's now a turn for council for any direction.
All right, thank you. Any standing item requests? Councillor Strabas.
Yes, Your Worship, I received a letter from a town property owner. I'll just read the letter. To the town of Tabor, reinstallation of sewer line at 6411 Wild Rose Drive. Attached, please find the quote from Ground Tech Enterprises. Cost of installation on town property was $2,700. We would invite the town of Tabor to join us in co-paying this amount for the sum of $1,350. Thank you for your consideration, Jim Kavanaugh, for the STEAM team. And I've got the quote here. So what has happened is a few years back, if you can remember, there was a push to take sewer up Wildrose Drive. It didn't get enough support from all the business owners along there. And this property owner he's already has water. His sewer goes into a septic tank, and he pumps it out from there. So he's gone ahead and got the necessary permits and got the work done. And he's asking for the town to reimburse 50% of the cost from his property edge to the manhole. He had Ground Tech do it, and our town foreman watched over the installation and everything. So the public property price, is the quote from Ground Tech, was $2,700, and he's looking for the 50% refunding on this. And this is preceded by other installations that has happened in the town. Horizon Implements, Fitch Tire, Heather, the animal place out there. It's quite a small price to have it done to hook him up to sewer there.
All right, so you're looking to make a motion?
Public input, yeah, or council input. If council's in agreement with this here, then I'll make the motion that we refund them. Just open for discussion.
Further discussion is open.
No.
All right, seeing none, or Councilor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to administration, has there been a precedent set in situations like this in the past?
That is correct. It's through Fitch Tire. There was a couple other businesses there where that cost was split 50-50, so that has been set in the past.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. This has just occurred fairly recently, Councilor Strauss?
Yes, they completed the work a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
He went through the permitting process through administration and got it all done. I don't know if Phyllis has got anything else to say about that, or Mr. Shearer.
I do recall some scenarios that yourself and Mr. Shearer is referring to several years back, actually. So, Councilor Becker?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be clear though, so this is from Mr. Kavanaugh's property line to the town's infrastructure, correct?
That's correct,
Thank
yes.
you.
All right, thank you. No other questions? You're willing to fashion the motion there?
Yes, I do. So just for council's information, the private property price was $15,600 to take it from his septic tank down the back, and then across neighboring property. He got all the necessary information and take it to there. So that price was $15,600. So it's just from the edge of the property to the manhole, the $2,700. So then I'll make the motion that town reimburses the STEAM team for the amount of $1,350 for connecting to the town sewer system.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? Councilor, or Mr. Roy?
Where exactly, I mean, the funding source was not specified.
Correct.
Oh, it would have to be operational.
Operating reserves?
Yes, out of operating reserves.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I guess, we can't, that's direction from administration, but we have to have somebody from council amend that.
Yes, I'll make that amendment that the money comes from operational reserves.
All right, thank you. Amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you. Any other standing item requests? Councilor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a concern. Sorry, I forgot my mic. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a concern citizen contact me about neighboring property to his home that is really unsightly, the backyard, and I told him to contact our police department to make a complaint, but that hasn't been able to go anywhere because I don't think we have any authority to tell people they have to tidy their, or keep their backyards a little more tidy. To me, it looks very unsafe. There's stuff there I don't believe should be there, but is there something I can tell this person to follow up with, or do we have something in the books to cover our backyard so the neighbor doesn't have to look over? Because it certainly devalues his property. He has a nice house and this fellow beside him is not taking care of his at all.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckert.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe the town has a unsightly premises bylaw in place. I think, I don't know what the bylaw all entails, Council Bruin, but I'm sure there's enough in there that we can take some action for the community peace officer program, or community peace officer could investigate that. There is a bylaw in place. All right, Mr. Orwa?
There should be something to that effect,
Yeah,
yes.
I can clarify, yes, there is, absolutely, there is. And just for Councillor Bruin's, awareness, it sounds like you give this gentleman good advice, but if he is reluctant for whatever reason to register a complaint himself, he can certainly do that on his behalf, if you're willing also.
Yes.
But, yes, there are certain guidelines that have to be followed, and if it's.
I'll follow it through further with the chief, perhaps with the community police. He is concerned enough that he's thinking of moving, but he says, how do I move when I have this mess beside me and my value of my property?
One phone call and have a bylaw officer checking it out and following up accordingly, but
Okay,
again, if he's not willing, then you can certainly do that on his behalf if you're willing yourself.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rowe, do you have something else to add, or?
So I believe Councillor Bruin was going to bring something in about the museum.
Correct. I was just gonna remind Councilor Bruin yourself, I believe that is correct.
That is correct.
I did actually suggest it maybe be on this agenda, but it sounds like, I think through talking to yourself previous, the museum board had an interest for us to visit the museum for a meeting as well. Is that
Yes,
correct?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm
You're
sorry, I
welcome.
should have mentioned that. The museum would like to meet, if possible, in the boardroom over there with council. I don't know if we'd fit in there with our present guidelines, but they would sure like to have at least some members of council attend so we can discuss the future of the museum over there and whatnot. And I said, I thought we should be able to arrange that.
All right, thank you. I don't know that we need a motion in this regard, other than if all are willing and any concerns there that way, or anybody that can make it. We have an email canvas as far as whatever dates might be suitable for them, and if we can all get the great, if not, well, whoever can attend, and we'll go that route if everybody's all right with that. Okay?
That'd be great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a
All
lot
right.
of history there we'd like to
Great, yeah,
preserve.
no, fair statement, thank you. All right, any other standing item requests? All right, seeing none, moving on to delegation. We have no delegations. On to meeting inquiries. Mr. Roa.
No media inquiries today.
All right, thank you. With that, I would ask for motion to move into closed session after a 15-minute adjournment. Councilor Bruin?
So be it.
All right, motion on the table.